Hi, Robert Stutzinger here, coming to you from my home office on beautiful Lake Michigan. Today we are discussing the second agreement of the four agreements, and that agreement is don't take anything personally. We are coming from this book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. This book was written back in 1997 and is one of my top five all-time personal development books. It is an awesome book that changed my life, and if you haven't read it, you need to have it in your bookcase because it is an amazing book. We talked about the first agreement yesterday, which was be impeccable with your word, and today the second agreement is don't take anything personally. Now, I want to backtrack just a little bit here for a second and talk about agreements, okay? Agreements are things that we make agreements with ourselves. We make agreements about what we believe, what we feel, what we know about ourselves, what we feel about ourselves, and a lot of times agreements can be either positive or negative. They can be true or false, and we still believe they're real even when they're false. So what can happen is when we're a young kid, say, and someone, an authority figure, says to us something like, you're good for nothing. You're good for nothing, and we believe it because it's an authority figure telling us that. Well, that's an agreement that we then have with ourselves that we're good for nothing, and we get programmed through social programming and cultural programming and religious programming. All these things we get programmed as we're young, and these different agreements that we make, that we believe, get inside of us. And some of the agreements can be opposing agreements, and we still believe them. They're still part of who we are. And what happens is we have all these different agreements that are going on, and it kind of makes us a fog or a cloud that keeps us from being able to access our personal power. So our personal power is what the four agreements does is the four agreements helps us to, when we make these four agreements, we have to break a lot of other agreements that we have, agreements that are false, agreements that are negative. So when we have these four agreements as our main agreements, then we regain our personal power. So that's why it is such a powerful book. And the second agreement, which is don't take anything personally, is a really good agreement to have with yourself, because most of the time it's not personal. Might someone might say something to you like, oh, you're fat, and it might be because it might be someone that loves you and is trying to tell you that you need to lose some weight, but they just don't tell you in a very nice way. Or it might be just, it's someone's opinion. It's someone's opinion, or the way they say it. Okay, you're fat. Well, oh, I'm fat. You can take it personally or not. You can say, well, I'm fat, but that means I don't have any value. I'm worthless. You know what I'm saying? You can put your own agreement on top of that, and you can just say, okay, that's your opinion. I'm fat, and I know I'm overweight, but that doesn't devalue who I am as a person. You see what I'm saying? So agreements, all these agreements that we have with ourselves, are can either hurt us or help us. And when we take things personally, then what happens is we attach an emotion to it. So when we take something personally, then it automatically puts us into some kind of emotion. And most of the time, a lot of the things we take personally are going to spin us into some kind of negative emotion. So if you look at your life through the lens of an angry person, and you get angry with people easily, and whatever reason it is, you're taking something personally, and then it triggers anger in you. So are you kind of seeing what taking things personally does to you? And you have a choice. Every time anything happens to you, you can take it personally or not. And the thing is, everyone has their own story. Most people aren't thinking about you like you think they're thinking about you. Most people don't even think about you. They only think about themselves. Everyone is wrapped up in their own personal story. Everyone's wrapped up in their own, story of what's going on in their life, and they're, living their story, and they don't even see what your story is most of the time because they're living their own story. So don't take anything personal is a really good agreement to make with yourself. And it takes a long time to break other agreements, because when something happens, all of a sudden you go into an emotional about it. It's a habit, right? Something happens, it triggers an emotional response. It's a habitual thing, and it's too late. Once you're in the emotion, you can't stop it. It's too late. So, but you can bring awareness to it, and then when you're aware of that emotion, and you can say, okay, I'm going to agree not to take it personally. Okay, so it might help you calm down a little bit earlier, or whatever. The next time you could bring a little more awareness, and eventually you break the agreement. So it's a process. You need to commit to the agreements and bring some awareness to your life, and use the agreements to hold on to your personal power, because a lot of times the negative agreements are when you're feeling victimized by people. Whenever you feel victimized, it's a red flag, and you should think about, okay, I'm taking things personally. So that is how you can use the second agreement. Don't take anything personally in your life to gain back your personal power. And if you liked this video and you want to hear the other two agreements, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel here. And of course, click on the link below. That'll take you to my blog post, and you can read about it a little bit more, because when we hear things, we learn it one way, and when we read it, we learn it another way. So anything you want to learn, you should always hear it and speak it and read it. 3 different ways that you can learn something, and then of course practicing it is the final way to solidify it in. And that's it for the second agreement. Stay tuned for the third agreement in the next video.